All right, we have a recap today, which I'm excited about, and you might recognize him, but you might not. So if you weren't here the first time around, you're in for a treat this time. We're going to see how this business has grown since the last time he was here. So please welcome Joe Razum from TCO Toolkit. I stumble on this every time. I should probably practice. 6 minutes for you, Joe. No, that's not it. Are you sure? That's it. You're like 2 minutes down.
Okay. I'll talk quick. Yeah, so I'm originally from Ohio, so I could talk fairly quick if I want to crank it up a notch. I did a survey recently. Winthrop did a survey. They called me up. I actually participated, and they said, "Where have you lived the longest, and in what state?" And I actually thought about it a second, and it was South Carolina because I moved down here in '98. I was in Greenville for the longest time, and now I've been in Fort Mill for about 5 years. So I'm a damn Yankee. I married a Southern belle from Abbeville, and I'm here to stay. Want to grow the economy here in South Carolina. What we're going to have feature here today is going to also be highlighted later on tonight at SCRA. It's got a big bash about donating, generating over $1 billion worth of funding for startups in South Carolina. So again, Joe Razum, company's TCO Toolkit, and we'll get going here. I'll talk about something of value for you. So let's talk about what's the value for you. You came out on a rainy day today. Appreciate it. We want to try and get you some value add here for today. So total cost of ownership, why does it matter? If you have anything to do with assets, physical assets, if you run a library, if you run a university, if you run a state, a city, county, if you have things, mechanical things, assets, IT things, very often, we asked a lot of technology leaders, in this case we were with SAE at a conference last year. We said, what are the barriers to adopting new technologies? And their biggest answer was making a valid business case. It's hard for the engineers who usually do the speccing of equipment to cut across all the different barriers that they have within an organization to make the good business case. Because very often companies, cities, states, they have the old 3 bids and a cloud of dust approach and go in for the low cost bidder. Like if I'm on the space shuttle, I don't want the low cost bidder, I want the highest quality bidder, right? But nonetheless, making a valid business case is the biggest challenge for engineers in the aerospace and auto industry. So that's why it matters. Total cost of ownership also matters because that's what the market wants. And I'm going to get into what total cost of ownership actually is on the next slide. But I'm just showing you that the market is saying we want to know what total cost of ownership of our assets are. So if you look at this, one of the updates since the last time I presented, I used to work full-time for a 3D printing company in the Rock Hill area. Now I work full-time doing total cost of ownership. And this graph shows a good reason as to why that's a good decision. I used to do some email marketing for 3D printing to my key customers. My open rate for that was like 13%, which is like industry average. It's a hot field still. You would think it would be a little bit higher, but nonetheless, it's about 13%. Total cost of ownership is like a 30% open rate. So there's a lot of market demand in the niches that we're focusing in on for total cost of ownership. So what is total cost of ownership? It's the sum of all the consumables, the initial price, quality cost, downtime, mean time between repairs. The lowest cost, initial cost, is always not your lowest total cost. And so we help companies measure that total cost by measuring the activities involved in that. So for example, if you go in the restroom right over here, you're going to look and you're going to say, okay, what kind of hand towels do they use? Well, they generally don't have hand towels. They've got blowers. And we can do a total cost of ownership analysis on that as well. But for the city of Rock Hill, who adopted our beta software, they did an analysis on hand towels. They had some hand towels that were battery powered, so you walk up to it, the motion hits it, the hand towel comes out. you got to go out and change those batteries, and over all the campuses that the city of Rock Hill has, that cost adds up. We did the math on it, on all the activities. We found $15,000 in annual cost savings by changing out from battery power to manual handhelds. Okay, that's a small example on just a simple thing. Normally we focus in on $1 million and higher assets as well. So the city purchased this beta based on the fact that we showed them cost savings on standby generators. So you can measure small things with it, you can measure big things with it. It's basically a calculator on how you assess your costs, cutting across your whole organization. There's some details of what we put in there. We put in labor rates, number of people. This is based on activity-based costing. You could do infinite number of activities in the software, and that's the beauty of software as a service. This is the team. Sanjay and I coded this originally for Rockwell Automation back in the day from 2000 to 2007. Long story short, in 2007, Rockwell sold our division, and the new owners had no interest in software. So we all walked away from the field. And 10 years later, I was sitting at my desk at this 3D printing company, and Audi called me up and said, tell me about that software that you guys did back in the day at Rockwell. And so I talked to him one time, and that was good for about an hour. And then he said, well, we need to talk a little bit more. And so on the second call, I got smart, and I said, hey, we're building a beta version of the software. Would you like to try it? And he said, yeah, sure. And so that to me was enough to say, okay, let's get this thing going. I called my old coding buddy, Sanjay, up, and between him and Brad, we got TCO Toolkit going. And it's a lot better than what it was before because the old version was CD-based. Now we're software as a service. We can scale cost effectively for companies. And but in the past, we won Plant Engineering Gold Product of the Year, and we were in Harvard Business Review. We're still using the same approach. We're members of SRAPA, which is the 15,000 member of Physical Plant Association. They have a standard on TCO that we're going to mention in a second. We're part of the Rock Hill Tech Incubator. Shout out to incubators. Incubators are great. They really help get you going. If you need forms, since going full time, I have 4 times more time available, but it seems like there's 4 times more things to do. And so whether it's a form or something, just somehow to get something done a little quicker, you run a business, there's still a lot of mindless things you got to do. And you want to have somebody that's already done the math on that to give you the shortcuts. So incubators are great. SCRA is great. We're going to attend a function later on tonight for them. We're part of their network. So we're happy to be part of South Carolina. We're starting to hire interns up in Rock Hill. Got a couple of interns. So we're starting to create jobs, and we're getting going. So there's a lot of people out there. Like I said, the market research shows that, hey, I need a TCO calculator. Those physical plant operators, the 15,000 of them, they said we need a TCO standard. So this was like the best gift we could have ever got, is that now there's a standard for total cost of ownership. And we're the first software to apply for self-certification to APA. And so we're gonna work that APA market a great deal because they're the ones that are showing the great interest in total cost of ownership. That's pretty much it. Last step is how can 1 million cups help? Pleasure for y'all to come out here today. We're looking to get the word out. Customers, ever since I've gone full time, I'm signing up probably like 3 times more customers than we were as far as the pace and the rate. It's amazing what you can do when you can focus. We're signing up resellers. Just signed up our first reseller yesterday. Software has a very aggressive reseller commission package. So if you're in the industrial world, maybe you get 5% finder fees. Software is a lot more aggressive. So if you have contacts that you think would like to be knowing total cost of ownership, and you have several of them, maybe we might want to talk about a reseller arrangement. We're open to talking to investors. We're going to be out at Dig South in April, late April. We got invited to that. That's a big, kind of like a South by Southwest for South Carolina. And so we're excited to be there. And so it's exciting, it's crazy, it's fun, a lot of work, but it's all good. So appreciate y'all being here. That's it.
Amen.